All right, so the painter RL helped to define pop art, the movement that incorporated commonplace objects and commercial art techniques into paintings by paraphrasing the style of comic books in his work. All right, so this painter helped to like define what pop art is, which is like whenever you take commonplace objects and these commercial art techniques into paintings by like it's kind of like this like paraphrasing style of like what comic books are. Okay. His merger of a popular genre with the forms and intentions of fine art. So it's saying like his merger of taking this popular genre with the forms and intentions of fine art generated a complex result. Ooh, complex. While poking fun at the pretensions of the art world, L's work also managed to convey a seriousness of theme that enabled it to transcend mere parody. So I'm thinking like already like he's kind of like that like comedy person that can like use comedy to poke fun at a serious issue, but also like draw attention to something serious, but also use humor in the mix. All right, but let's continue on. That L's images were fine art was at first difficult to see, because with their word balloons and highly stylized figures, they looked like nothing more than a comic book panels from which they were copied. Standard art history holds that pop art emerged as an impersonal alternative to the histrionics of abstract expressionism. Ooh, that's a hard sentence. So we're saying like, so our standard art history says that pop art came from impersonal alternative to the histrionics of abstract expressionism, a movement in which painters conveyed their private attitudes and emotions using non-representative techniques. So we're saying like this, we used to say that it just came from people like trying to share their private attitudes and emotions using like things that just don't represent actual objects. The truth is that by the time pop art first appeared in the early 1960s, so I really am paying attention to these words here, is it saying the truth is. So I really feel like our author's opinion is coming in here. Abstract expressionism had already lost much of its force. Ooh, okay. Pop art painters weren't quarreling with the powerful early abstract expressionist work of the late 1940s, but with a second generation of abstract expressionists who work seemed airy, high-minded, and overly lyrical. So we're saying that we aren't like going against the like early abstract expressionists. We're going against the second generation of these people who were, airy and high-minded. Pop art paintings were full of simple black lines in large areas of primary color. L's work was part of a general rebellion against the fading emotional power of abstract expressionism rather than a aloof attempt to ignore it. So we're saying like we're like this just rebellion against the fading emotional power rather than just like an attempt to completely ignore. Okay. But so we have a point of contention here. So we're saying, but if rebellion against previous art by means of the careful imitation of a popular genre were all that characterized L's work, so this was like the only thing that made up L's work, it would possess only the reflective power that parodies have in relation to their subjects. Beneath its cartoons methods, his work displayed an impulse towards realism, an urge to say that what was missing from contemporary painting was the depiction of contemporary life. Okay, so we're saying like beyond him just poking fun at something or just imitating something, he does have this like real meat to his artwork underneath it. The stilted romances and war stories portrayed in the comic books on which he based his canvases, the stylized automobiles, hot dogs, and table lamps that appeared in his pictures were a reflection of the culture L inhabited. But in contrast to some pop art, L's work exuded not a jaded cynicism about consumer culture, but a kind of deliberate naivety intended as a response to the excess of sophistication he observed not only in the later abstract expressionists, but in some other pop artists. So we're saying like it's not just like a jaded, not only did it not include jaded cynicism, it actually was a kind of deliberative simplicity that was like intended because there was just like everything was just too fancy in these other works. With the comics typically the domain of youth and innocence as his reference points, a nostalgia fills his paintings that gives them for all their surface bravado and inner sweetness. So it's saying like, oh, these are just nice. His persistent use of comic art conventions demonstrates a faith in reconciliation, not only between cartoons and fine art, but between parody and true feelings. Ooh, I love that. So we're saying like not only is his artwork use cartoons and fine art techniques, it also has this nice balance between expressing your feelings but also using parody. Excellent. All right, so let's jump into the questions.